This will be mainly the swing motor removal on the big excavator, the Poclain 90, and I've learned now that it's a CK. It's just a uh, extra sticker on it that says B on it. I thought it was a B model, but it's a CK model. Doesn't really matter, but and there seems to have been some leak here under the one of the controls in the cabin, so I looked a little at that, removed some plastic, and then reinstalled some plastic with some of it removed, enough that it can be used, and see if any leaks can be spotted. Also found broken wiring here. It should be the horn on that bottom. Here I'm looking at removing some cover for the swing motor, and later found that big crack. I think I mentioned it earlier when in the bucket cylinder video. This was removed, and it has been leaking a little from this area around here, so that might be looked at also. But here I'm removing that cover, so that part of the frame could be seen, and here is the area where the crack could be found. So decision is made to pull out the swing motor, and then the diesel heater is on top of the cover plate for this. It's just an air heater because this has a air-cooled engine. Only machine I've been around that's never leaked any coolant. It's just a couple of wires, they are color coded, a couple of bolts holding that plate in place. We decided to lift the plate with the heater still in place. And then the swing motor is quite exposed. There might be a leak on the top here, but it feels like it's not really made the top super wet. I think the major leak here is actually at the bottom, so I'm just gonna look at that for now, I think, because here it's not like oil has actually been running here enough to clean it, even if it's a little moist on top. At the bottom you can see oil actually running, so I think it's just the output shaft that has a leak big enough that I will look at it now. But found some markings on it. It's a 1250 cc engine Poclain. If anyone watching this has in the near future has any help with an exploded view or something of this motor, please comment, because finding stuff online for these old machines, it's not that easy. Any help is appreciated. The hoses started being removed. Nothing tricky apart from me hoping it would be possible to find blanking plates for these hoses so the machine could be started with the motor out. Maybe have the boom help push things around, and using the crawler to move it around if needed, but that is not very easy. None of the local hydraulics companies, they might be able to produce the hoses needed, but blanking plates for it, no. And this one here, I tried removing it, but the nut holding the pipe in place, the pipe was just following along, so decided to just remove the hose that's on there, because it was just held in place with a hose clamp, so it can't be really high pressure part of the system. So then there are a couple of small hoses they have to do with the brake setup. It's kind of a sandwich situation with a motor on top, and then it's a brake unit underneath it, and then it's an outgoing axle and a sprocket for engaging the turning mechanism. There are some threaded holes. Could find some chain and some threaded rod. It's an M14, a little odd, but had that around, so could figure out a way to lift it once it's undone. And it's a bunch of bolts holding it in place here. They needed a pipe on the breaker bar to start coming undone. And it also turns out to be like two conical, it's like an expansion thing that goes down in a pin that caused us issues. Once they were broken free, the machine could undo them, but the top needed to be held for a couple of them. Some of them were possible to undo without holding the top end. And then it was these two joints that, well, here it's just a bolt, I think, that refused to really come up. It was kind of stuck there, so breaker bar and a hammer as a leverage. But the two conical units there, one was in a place where it could be hammered out. The other one ended up being just where that lock tab for the swing lock was located, so that was no good because there was no access to actually hammer it out. We took the decision to hook up the tractor and start pulling we looked at options to push it out, but couldn't find anything, so we decided to pull the upper part of the machine a little to the side by hooking up to the bucket, and it started moving, but with no pressure the turning brake is engaged. We got a little bit of the way, but still not good angle to hammer that thing out, so we pulled it a little further, and here you might get a little dizzy because I started waving my arms because I could see the motor moving when that thing moved up, so the motor was loose at least now, and we hooked up a chain block, and could start lifting it up, and then the tractor hoisted it up. Why did we do this, you might ask? Well, we'll look at the leak also, but the main reason was that crack. And my dad have done a major job. Well, yeah, here the camera died before we could lower it down on the support we had prepared. This hose was still leaking a little, so I added a clamp on top of that yellow plug so to stop that. And here you can see the crack, and here my dad has started grinding away the crack to prepare it for welding. I'm looking at bringing in some guy that's better at welding than me or my dad.